Hello and welcome back to the Base on Balls podcast here at the Johnny Lee Memorial League. Today, I'm your host, John Height, joined alongside by the electric crew of Bracton, Paul, and of course the commish, Cody. We're going to be talking about Week 12 of the Johnny Lee Memorial League. Before we get into it, I'll let everyone give their initial thoughts. I'll start with you, Cody. How are you feeling right now?
It's a good week, man. Got a W. Team didn't play great. Got a win, and just kind of realizing that the championship is hens to lose, and just kind of playing by those rules moving forward. But it was a good week.
Bracton, how are you doing?
My team is electric right now. We're on a 2-game win streak. I'm very happy about this. I have a superstar in Ellie De La Cruz, and things are looking up. Very happy.
And last but not least, my friend for the first 11 weeks of the season. I don't know if he still considers me a friend. Paul, how are you doing?
John, you're still my guy.
All right, good. Just making sure.
No, it was a tough week. I mean, not a tough week at all performance-wise for my team. But I just ran into the buzzsaw that is the Hartford Yargoats. But I mean, it's a good week for the league. A lot of interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely a lot of interesting stuff was able to go down in week number 12. And for the matchups, let's start with, Cody, we'll start with your matchup. So the Bowling Green Hot Rods took down Chad and the Oklahoma City Dodgers 665 to 586. And Cody, we'll let you go first with this one.
Yeah, so, I was honestly kind of pissed off the entire week because I went into this week and I'm like, yes, I finally get a breather. Like playing Chad, kind of take it slow, not have to worry about it too much. And then his offense scores 330 points. I outscored his offense by 4 points. I ended up winning, pulling out the win late. But, he was within, 60, 70 points of me all week long. And then on Sunday, I guess he ended up, it was about an 80-point game. But, yeah, my team, I've kind of some panic set in after getting stomped by John Height, which, last week I still broke 600, but I just lost by like 300 and something points. And then this week, my team didn't really play exceptional, but hey, anytime you can get the win, you got to be happy with it. Chad's, I know he's building for the future, but, he's got some guys that can pop off at any time. Kyle Bradish had 2 good starts against me. Daniel Lynch had 2 good starts against me. He got some pitching performances. He had some strong offensive play. But, I know his goals for the future. But I'll tell future people or other owners that have to play Chad on the schedule, don't sleep on him. It's not going to be easy.
Paul, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, speaking of it, I play Chad this coming week. So, looking at this total, I might be in for another loss. But Chad's got good players. Mickey Moniak, probably the story of the year so far with 45 this week. Finding himself again after being the number 1 pick however many years ago. But he's got Luis Matos, who came up. Taveras is a good player for Texas. Brandon Marsh, good player for Philly. Jake Berger, he only had 1 home run this week, but he's a guy that I feel like it's every other day he hits home run. So he's got good players. And then obviously Cody, retooling, revamping a little bit this week. And still, over 600 points. The big one for me was Henry Davis got called up for Pittsburgh this week, and Cody called him up as well. Catcher, if you could call it a weak spot, although Sean Murphy's a great catcher and he scores a lot. But if you could find a weak spot on that team, it probably was catcher. So now a duo of Murphy and Davis, that's going to be something to watch for Cody.
And lastly, Bracton.
Yeah, so, we've had a couple exciting weeks leading up to this one, and then there's going to be more exciting weeks coming up. But in those weeks, I'm expecting a lot from guys like Chad and Scott and Dave as some of these guys start to pick up traction here on the trade market. Like, he got 67 points from Ha-Seong Kim. Okay, like, that guy could probably help a contender, I'm sure, right? 36 from Luis Matos, that's his future. He probably won't move him, but Mickey Moniak, maybe he capitalizes on this. Maybe he can capitalize off Kyle Bradish or Daniel Lynch, like Cody mentioned. But that 586 is just something to be proud of for Chad for sure. And I could totally see him getting some good value on some of these guys, like the ones we just mentioned. But Cody, there's a lot to be happy about. 53 points from Vlad. He looks good. I heard he met with Victor Martinez to help him a little bit with his swing, and it's been picking up ever since then. So that's a good sight to see. And Henry Davis, like Paul mentioned, good things in store for him too. I'm excited to watch that. But Cody got some good starts in there too from Kershaw, Nola, Gilbert, and Glasnow. So we'll see what happens going forward. But it was a good week for Cody despite the initial downplaying him for a little bit.
Let me add on real quick, John Height. Last week on the pod, my friend Tita stepped to the microphone and but he hurt my feelings. If I'm being honest, he posed a question: when is it time to panic on Vlad Jr. and Austin Riley? And John Height, my guys responded this week to that. Okay. It fueled the fire. Okay, Austin Riley with a 60-piece, Vlad Guerrero with 53 himself. I think they answered Tita's question, so I just wanted to make mention of that from the last pod.
Yeah, and I'll say for me too, I've been pretty critical of Vlad. I mean, I think Riley was gonna bounce back anyway. I think he's like the 59th overall batter. He's gonna just keep jumping up after this big week. Vlad, I think, just hit his first home run at home this week. So, I mean, he had a slow start, but even with the slow start, he was still batting close to 300. I think he's at 285 right now. So, the power stuff wasn't really there yet. So, now the power stuff's there. I mean, he'll be back, and I'm sure you'll be getting some big-time contributions out of him going forward. One thing I want to bring up about your team real quick, or one player at least, is that, I mean, the pitching just absurd this week. I mean, going against Kershaw, Nola, Strider looks like he's back. Glasnow as well. And you mentioned Gilbert. Really interesting to see Sandy still hasn't woken up yet. I mean, you have all these good pitchers. I guess he's the one that is still trying to wake up. I don't know if he is. I mean, he probably will eventually. It's just a matter of when. I think he's got Boston and Atlanta coming up, so we'll see. Interesting to see maybe what will happen with him going forward. But let's go to the next matchup. Let's do Bracton because I know he's got quite a lot to say. So the Larks scored 699 points. PU didn't score 700. First, Homco 541. Bracton, you can go first.
I would have set 700 had I checked my lineup today and put in Brett Beatty for Lamont Wade, but it's whatever. I don't care because Ellie De La Cruz had a cycle. 126 points for my guy. And 56 points for my other red, TJ Friedel. This team is fun. This team is really exciting. I watch all these games. They're just special. And I'd also like to point out Luis Robert had 43 points and 8 at-bats. I love Luis Robert. He's finally here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've been hyping this up since week 3 of the podcast when I said I was going to make a push to trade for him. I finally got him. So that's huge. Pitching sucked this week. I'm not gonna lie. Newcomer Mackenzie Gore, which we'll also talk about. I'm happy with him, and I'm happy with Ranger Suarez and Josiah Gray. That's pretty much it. Everybody else didn't do very well this week. Gavin Williams made his debut though. That's gonna be fun to watch going forward. But we made some good trades, brought in some new people. I'm really liking where this team's going. I'm very excited. 63 points for Luis Arias too. Don't sleep on that. But props to Homco. He had a good week. 541. He outscored my pitching by about 60 points. But at the end of the day, the LE cycle was the difference here. But good on him. He's still going to win a lot of games going forward here, I think.
We'll go to Cody next.
Yeah, so this was kind of an interesting matchup here for sure. There was a lot riding on this matchup. I think with Bracton winning, I think you can pretty well eliminate Homco from playoff contention. There's 7 weeks left. If Homko was to win out, he would finish 9-8-2. I'm not sure if 9 wins is going to be enough to get you in the playoffs. So maybe not mathematically eliminated yet, but I think it definitely kind of takes a team out that on paper is good enough to be involved in the playoff consideration, and kind of puts the 6th, 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th seed between right now Hendog, Jamie, Paul, and Bracton all kind of bunched in there together. So, really interesting matchup. Bracton won in a big way. I know he's excited for that. Listen, the team, Bracton's made a lot of moves. And this team is a lot better than it was. And it's definitely poised to really have a strong second half to the season. The offense, for sure. I will say that his pitching scored, I think it was 232 points this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, 232. And I know he knows this, but that's not going to win most weeks. Without a cycle, he probably, this would have been a lot more of a close matchup. And I think against some of the better competition, you're going to have to get more than 232 out of the matchup. But he's got a lot of young arms. They're going to have big weeks. They're going to have really bad weeks. And he's still running Patrick Sandoval out there. So that's good. That's going to definitely hold him back. But the offense is strong. Nearly broke 500 points offensively this week. Take the cycle out of the equation, putting around 400. That's kind of where most contenders stay. In terms of Homko, listen, we've talked about Homko on this podcast week in and week out. You got to feel bad for the guy, man. 2-8-2, and this team is just loaded with talent. It really, really is. And I know this week, especially if you notice, his offense had 221 ABs to Bracton's 257 ABs. Homko was kind of, on vacation and out of it. He wasn't able to, really focus this week, and I think that probably held him back a little bit. But at 2-8-2, I think it's time for him to maybe shift focus, start looking for next year, and start kind of poisoning himself for a big, future run, because the foundation is here for a really good team. And I do want to mention Yuri Perez with 82 points this week in a double start week. The kid is just absolutely electric.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Yuri Perez. I think he's going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball very soon. And, Paul, you can round us out.
Yeah, Yuri Perez, 18 strikeouts in 12 innings. He might already, at 20 years old, be a top 10 pitcher in this league, which is absolutely crazy. I've heard that he might get shut down for a period in the next couple weeks, but as Cody had said, he's kind of in the, or Homko's kind of in the rebuilding phase at this point. For Bracton, shout out Mackenzie Gore, who had 30 points today in his one start for Bracton. I believe in Mackenzie Gore's 3 starts for me, he had a combined 25 points. So I guess we were just never meant to be. Also, shout out Bryce Miller, the Seattle Mariners ace, who scored a whopping 6 points this week. Other than that, obviously Ellie did work this week. My guy TJ Friedel, as Bracton mentioned, 56 points. Luis Arias hit 500 this week. He was 14 for 28 in the starts that Bracton had him. Obviously Bracton's got good talent. He's got young talent. Complete team. He has 3 prospects, I think. So, you never know. And then the last thing, before I forget, Gavin Williams made his debut this week. Threw out 10 points in his first big league start. Gavin Williams, obviously, as people, listeners of this podcast know, a former Norfolk Tide. Wish him the best. Hope I'll get him back someday. But knowing Bracton, I know I'll have to pay, my kids' college tuition. So In all, a good week for Bragton. Let's see if he can keep it up.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about some of the moves Bragton made. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez being on the move after a short stay in Bismarck. I know we make fun of the meat riding with Ellie, but 126 points in a week. He is legit. Love to see. Usually I'm a fan of foreign players, but Shane Bieber with 10, he's got 17 points combined his last two starts. Knew that dude was washed, and then he's going to be washed. But I think, the pitching was a little abnormal. I think some of these guys, I think Bobby Miller had a -7 this week. He's not going to do that every week, obviously. The ace Bryce Miller is going to do better than 6. But definitely a ton of bright spots with Bismarck. Probably its best spot it's been all season, especially since a lot of us joined the league. So let's go to the next matchup. Let's do me versus Paul. So in an absolute just stressful and just absurd week, the Yard Goats remain undefeated, took down the Norfolk Tides 752 to 729. Paul, I'll let you start us here.
Yeah, tough loss. Had a lead from pretty much Wednesday through about, 7:30, 8 o'clock today. Never fun to lose a game like that. But 729 points is a ton of points. It's not going to lose most weeks. I'm pretty happy with that. 311 points with my pitching, 418 out of my bats. I kind of took a look in the mirror and I said I need to get my bats, so I made some moves. My outfield looks entirely different. And I'll say this too. My favorite player in all of baseball got me -1 point this week. I'm referring to Adley Rutschman. If he's anything like he is normally, I probably win this week. It's tough to lose a game like that and have your favorite player suck too. I'll wear it. It is what it is. It's not fun to lose when you score that many points, but obviously John Haidt has a great team.
Bragton, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to add other than it was kind of fun as an outsider to watch you guys go back and forth a little bit here. I know Paul had a decent lead there for a little bit, but I crap on John Haidt's team all the time, but some of these old dudes actually got it done this week, so credit to them. I just want to point out that you, the listener of this podcast, had 4 more points than Corbin Burns did this week, which is pretty cool. But other than that, just congratulations. Got some big time performances from some of these dudes. So nothing much else to add except in 2 weeks we're gonna have a fun one. So
definitely, and I already know what's coming. I don't get it, but Cody, you can go.
Yeah, super interesting matchup. I really thought this would probably be the week that John Haidt fell. Now, that he survived, I'm not sure that he can be beaten. Paul, anytime you score 729 and you lose, that is just absolutely brutal. But I think Paul can take away some stuff here. He's 6-6 now. He's kind of back at 0. And he's coming off a week in which he scored 729 points. So, to me, I think sometimes you can't get too caught up in wins and losses, even though I know that that's important. I think, for Paul, if he can focus on the fact that he knows that this team is capable of 700-plus point performances, you can be confident week in and week out. You got a chance every week. With John Haidt, man, what Ohtani does is just incredible. It is every single week. This man is 70, 80, 90 points. Another big week for him. Matt Olson had just an absolutely massive week. Lindor had a big week. The pitching, I think with John Haidt, if there's I wouldn't want to call it a weakness. That would be insulting because it's not a weakness. Your pitching scored 349 points. But, if there's anything that I see here, it's that some of these pitchers may not hold up. may not be able to continue. Guys like Kikuchi, Verlander's really struggled this year. Don't know what you're going to get out of Merrill Kelly, things like that. But, still there's a lot of depth there. Great week for you. Huge win when you can beat a team that scores 700-plus points and come out with a W. That's big for you. And for Paul, I want to shout out Nico Horner. Just a massive week for you. Ian Happ had a big week for you. Paul's a closet Cubs fan for the listeners of this podcast. And, go Cubs go, right? And even rostered Jan Gomes this week for 10 points.
Yeah,
so,
more points than Adley Rutschman. So there you go.
So, Paul's really positioned his team almost similar to Bracton. We've kind of sat and watched them. They both, I would say, have made the most moves in the last 3 weeks. And, you can kind of tell. And like I said, Paul took a loss this week, but he scored 729 points. That was, third most in the league? So he would have beat 11 other teams. So, now he should be done with John Height on the schedule, I believe.
Yeah, we played twice now.
He played twice now, so okay. So, he's tied with Bracton. In my opinion, those two teams are fighting for the 7th seed. I don't know who's got the better team. I think Paul's got the better pitching. I would give Bracton the slight edge offensively. It's going to be really interesting to see those two teams battle it out coming down the stretch. And for John Height, man, I wouldn't tinker too much, big dog. I would just kind of ride this baby out and, see what happens. But it was a good win for you. Congrats on the big W.
Yeah, appreciate it, Cody. And I'll start with, for my analysis for your teams, Paul. I mean, your offense was absolutely relentless this week. I can't imagine the last time recently that my offense has actually been outscored, which is the way the offense has been all year long. And, Nico Horner, I played 2 straight weeks because Cody had him, and now you have him. I'm glad to not play him anytime soon. 2 former Yorkos just kicked the crap out of me this week. Ian Happ at 58 and Alex Bregman also at 58. So 2 dudes that I think Happ I traded in the offseason. Bregman I traded for Machado early on, and Machado hasn't really woken up yet, and Bregman has just been tearing the cover off the ball. So definitely a good deal from Paul to get Bregman and for the foreseeable future. But yeah, my team looked very human this week. Paul led for, I think, right till Wednesday. I was down 80 points today, and, I learned a lot about my team. I learned that if I'm down, 50-plus points, there's still some ways where my team could pop off. It's just good to know for the future, but obviously I wish that I had some control of the matchup early on in the week. But yeah, like you mentioned, Cody, I do agree in part about the pitching. I built a lot of depth up the last 3 or 4 weeks while I'm waiting for some of my guys to come back. And I realize guys like Evaldi, who I just traded for, Merrill Kelly, shit the bed this week. Those guys aren't going to last forever. And I don't think they're going to be the guys that were early on the rest of the season, but I kind of see them as just, hopefully just 20-point per game pitchers, just get to the 20 mark, at the minimum, and just see how these guys are going to do. And I really hope guys like Corbin Burns, like Bragdon mentioned, just -4 is unacceptable. But good to see Blake Snell. We talked about it off air. For me, gave me 49 this week. Very happy what I've seen from him. Got a couple of requests, trade requests about him already. So maybe we'll move him potentially. Framber for me, I think, has been the best pitcher, by far. He's the 3rd ranked, and obviously Felix Bautista and Presley were dominant too. But I'll take the win. As long as a win's a win, and best of luck to Paul's team the rest of the way. I definitely don't want to play your team anytime soon because I easily could have lost this week. Let's go to the next matchup on the schedule, and my God, it was an unbelievable it was a shellacking this week. I don't think a lot of people expected this. Bry took down Jamie's team 791 to 636. Just crazy stuff. We'll head to Bracton first. What did you think of this one?
All right. I'm upset, okay? Not going to lie, I'm upset. Every week I come on this show and I talk about how much I love Jamie's team, how much, I love the hitting, I love everything he's doing except for the pitching, right? 7 starts, dude. He missed the start minimum. Again. What are we doing, bro? You got one of the best teams in the league here. Okay, I know that some of these arms are getting injured, right? Go make a trade. Do something. Like, I legitimately think if this dude put in half the effort that Bry does, even 30% even, right? This dude's undisputed best team in the league. 636 with 7 starts. Almost outscored my entire team with 5 less starts. Come on, dude. Like, it's frustrating because I want this dude to succeed, man. But he's got to want to succeed himself. But props to Bryce, 791, dog. I love his team too. I love what he's doing. He's got some great players. Joe Ryan, complete game shutout. Props to him. 38 points for Justin Steele. Like, he's got some ballers here. So good for Bry. But Jamie, come on, dude. Like, I can only hype you up so much, and gotta give me something back here, man. Please. All right.
But it will go to you next.
Did you say me, John Height? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah. My bad. Okay. Yeah. Braxton kind of nailed it home here. I mean, Jamie's offense scored 458 points. I mean, even with semi-reasonable pitching management, this matchup is close or Jamie wins. 7 starts, 54 innings. He didn't touch his relief pitchers. Josh Hader got 1 out all week. He's got to start doing something because, the better teams, Jamie got his wins. He had a tough schedule and he got beat. And then he started rolling off win after win after win, but he was playing a very easy schedule. When he plays the good teams, especially teams like Bry, he's going to have to do more than just sit on this roster. Because this roster is good. I'm with Braxton. It's strong. It's a good team. But it's not good enough for you to just sit on it and just hope you get the win every week. Shout out Ketel Marte with an 85-point performance. Cunha Jr., 65, doing his thing. Tatis, 50. I mean, yeah, Garrett Cole, 55 points. I mean, he's got the talent here. He just doesn't have the skill. I don't think he has the management skill to compete in this league. And I think it's going to hold his team back. As for Bry, almost 800 points. Listen, when he does what he does against you and it works, he can put up 800 points on you. And it's frustrating, but it's legal. And it's the way he does. It's the way he manages his team. And it works for him. I mean, 96 innings this week from pitchers. I don't even know how many pitchers he used. I'm not even about to count them, but it was a whole bunch. And that's kind of Bry's recipe for success. So it was a big win for him, an important win for him. I know he'd had some losing streaks, and some people kind of started to doubt kind of what where his team was going. But I think he answered a lot of questions this week, almost scoring 800 points.
And Paul.
So I'll just stick to my favorite tidbits. For Jamie, his lowest regular starter for bats was Bryce Harper, who scored 16 points. So basically his worst regular bat of the week was MVP Bryce Harper. That's how good his offense is. That's just a little perspective on how good he is on offense. It's been said. I don't need to say it. Starting pitching, work on it. For Bry, the tidbit I have for him, I was looking at his pitching. He had 7 holds, 0 saves, 0 blown saves, and still scored 397 points. I mean, I know a lot of that was the complete game shutout. But still, I mean, he streams a lot. Yeah, we all know he streams a lot. But his pitching is pretty legit, too. Like, Justin Steele, whose arm I hope falls off at some point, with 38 points. Joe Musgrove, 39. Luzardo, 42. He's got good pitching. And that's going to take him far. His streaming will take him farther. and his bats are pretty good too. I mean, it wasn't even set. He almost scored 400 points with his bats. So, Bry, he had a lull a little bit, 3 or 4 weeks in a row of losses. But, I mean, his team is for real, and his team's for real going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Bry's team, you could finally see what a complete week, on both ends of the parts of the match, was able to look like. One guy I want to shout out, Matt McLean, had 54. I mean, just like Brackton mentioned, the Reds, they've just been on fire the entire season so far, and especially since Ellie got called up. And the pitching, Joe Musgrove, I know was a guy a lot of people are kind of giving up on in this league, and then all of a sudden he's turning back into the original Joe Musgrove. He's had a couple of 20-point starts, a 39-piece this week, had 2 30s as well. Joe Ryan as well, I think, has been such a great pitcher for him this year. But yeah, I think everything has already been said about Jamie's team. Just got to work on the pitching. And, 7 starts. I mean, if he probably even hit 10 starts, depending on who we got, it definitely would have been close. But yeah, I mean, these bats alone are some of the best, if not the best players in all of baseball. So we'll see if Jamie can turn around the ship and just get some more starts in there. But we'll go to the next matchup. I completely forgot. I think this was the original matchup of the week. Actually, we probably had 3 matches of the week. And we talked about 2 of them. Let's do the other one. Hen versus Tita. And Hen and Clearwater Beach Dogs took down the Nashville Sounds 878 to 662. And Cody, I'll let you lead off here.
Yeah, man. Every time I see Hen's box score, I just thank God I played him. Was it week 1? I played Hen. I think I got him out, and I only played him 1 time. I got that out of the way, and I'm done. I'm sure I'll run into him in the playoffs. But, I mean, just an absolutely massive performance from the Beach Dogs. This is multiple weeks in a row he's had big performances. I want to say 3, but it could be more than that. Almost broke 900 points, 395 pitching points, 483 offensive points. Just insane production there. And Hen kind of does it for me a little unconventional. He uses some players maybe guys wouldn't place a lot of value in that worked for him. I mean, he got 50, 70 points from his catchers this week between Jonah Heim and Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez didn't have a job when the season began. Juan Soto's really gotten going for him, 83 points. Kyle Tucker's pretty interesting. Kyle Tucker has not been great this year. He's been fine, but not your traditional, Kyle Tucker. Lane Thomas does it again for him week in and week out. 55 more points this week. The pitching there, Hen's got a really complete team, and he 7-5. He's really going to be tough to deal with. This is a surefire playoff team, but I don't think there's no way this team misses the playoffs, and they're going to do some damage when they get there. But as far as Tita's concerned, he falls to 9-2-1. This team's really good. Tita scored 662 and lost. Would have beat a lot of teams this week, but he ran into Hen Dog. Offense was good, 399. I think his pitching let him down this week, and I think that's why we've seen Tita's made several moves the last 48 hours, and they've all been, or most have been, pitcher related trades, kind of moving guys in and out there, retooling the arms a little bit. Tita's another surefire playoff team. Maybe they'll rematch, once they get in the playoffs. But I think for Tita, I think you got to kind of chalk this up to what I said about Paul. I don't think you can get too caught up in the fact that you lost. Hen Dog almost scored 900 points, man. You probably weren't going to win no matter what your team did. So you still had a good week. You're pretty consistent there, 660 to 700 plus points every week. So, I think Tita's just going to kind of retool on the fly and roll, and he'll probably get several more wins coming down the stretch.
And we'll go to Paul next.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Cody said. Both teams making the playoffs, both teams really good. This has potential for a championship preview. I don't know that will happen just because Tito always makes comments, well, I'm going to sell, this and that. And he makes moves where he sells pieces, but, 2 days later, he'll turn around and buy pieces that are even better. Tita, I think, is pretty secure in the playoffs. Hen Dog's right there. He's on his way. 30 points out of Stroman, 30 out of Wheeler, or Webb. His bullpen, this is crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullpen pieces. Easily over 100 points just from his bullpen, which is just wild. This team is so deep. This team is so young. This team, Hen Dog's got a team that's going to be around for a while.
And we'll crack it.
Yeah, echoing a lot of what's been said. Just Hen Dog's big guys are getting it done. All-star Jonah Heim, which was acquired at a random lunch period in the cafeteria where me, John Height, and Hen Dog just sit around for 2 hours and do nothing. 45 points this week, just absolutely ridiculous. It's just there's not much else to say other than Hen's team is really deep, just like y'all said. If he gets Shane McClanahan, it would be even deeper. Just saying that's a legit possibility. So, Hen, let's talk. Anyway, Tita has taught me a lot this year about dealing guys at their peak value and getting assets, making other types of trades around that. We'll talk about it later, but he got max value for a couple players, and it's really interesting to watch him work and just watching him navigate the trade market here, which has been kind of stagnant recently. It's been this week there was a little decrease in deals compared to the last couple, but Tita's always making them happen and still put up 662. He's going to beat a lot of teams going forward, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
Yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Hen's team is just insane. A guy like Juan Soto, too, who really didn't start off that great. He's now the 11th overall bat. He'll probably crack the top 10 this week alone. Just 83 points is absurd. We just talked about the young pieces on this team. You still got Jordan Walker, who's now going to be a regular for him. Again, Lane Thomas. A bunch of us, I think, had him as streaming for a while, and he's really turned Lane Thomas into an actual, player for him. Lane Thomas is the 23rd overall scorer in Fantrax scoring right now. Oh, my God, that's just crazy. You still got J. Ram, who dropped 50. He's back after another slow start. Andrew Abbott, who's been absolutely insane this year. He's got a 1.14 ERA. His lowest point total has been 23 over 4 starts. So, again, Hen's team is loaded. He's got assets, too, if he wants to make more moves, whether it be McClanahan or more. He can do pretty much whatever he wants. In terms of Tita, I just think, 62 is a great number. There were a bunch of guys on this team that just, in weeks past have absolutely popped off. And, of course, the 1 week where he really needed that, this against a team like Hen, it just wasn't there. Like a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who's really helped him win a bunch of weeks. He only had, 3 points total this week. A couple other guys as well. I know he traded Dansby away. JD Martinez as well didn't have that much of an impact this week. But we will talk about some of the trades Tina made also this week. But both teams are going to be in the playoffs, and you definitely don't want to face either of them by that time. So got a couple more matchups to do before we head to the deals. We have, I think, 2 more left, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 2 more. Let's go to Connor versus Scott, where Scott secured the dub 5-4-46. And Paul, I'll let you go first.
So shout out to Scott for finally getting a win against a team that's not me. It's great. 379 points out of his bats. Where the hell did that come from? And the answer is Jake Fraley, Royce Lewis, and Geraldo Perdomo. Royce Lewis, what a story there. A former top prospect, had a lot of injuries, barely was on rosters around here. And this week just casually drops 64 points. A huge guy, 24 years old, could potentially be a nice building piece for Scott, along with a bunch of other nice building pieces he has on offense, like Alvarez, like Casas. I mean, he's got good talent there. It's the arms that kind of have to start building up for him. And I believe he has just an absolute ton of prospects that he can work with. Prospects and picks, I think. So he should be there pretty soon. For Connor, it's a tough week. 103 points from the arms is tough. But it's the same thing with the bats. 343 points. It's return of Alek Thomas with 53 points. You know, I've believed in that guy for a really long time. I think Cody can attest. Finally starting to see some work. Finally starting to get it going a little bit. I mean, an old guy like Starling Marte, you know, obviously a trade bait type of guy. Drury, I know that he's been trying to move Drury for a while. Did he actually move Drury this week? Or no, he still got him. Okay, so yeah, a guy that 36 points, that can help contenders for sure. And then Wilson Contreras, 33 points. He's got bats to move as well as bats to keep, which is a good spot to be. And it's just seeing which pitchers he can identify, and that'll help him in the long run.
We'll go to Bracton next.
Yeah, just Scott has some guys who've been saying it every week, and even some of his bigger ones like Francisco Alvarez and Tristan Casas didn't even do that great this week, but some of his other guys like Royce Lewis and C.J. Abrams, 64 and 56 respectively, those guys are the future, and they're here now balling for him. So he's got some pieces that I could totally see him flipping here at our deadline. In a little bit, he still doesn't have a lot of pitching. Poor Adam Wainwright got rocked this week. 11 hits, 7 earned, but in 3 innings. But I mean, he's got, like we said, he's just got some pieces. Camilo Doval got him 46 out of the bullpen. The guy's a baller. Like we've been saying it for weeks, but contenders go look at Scott's team for potential pieces to help out going forward here. But Connor's Connor, man. He does a lot of work. He'll get it right. He's got some pieces, too, that he's been flipping. He got some really good deals, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I can't imagine people wouldn't be calling him about some of these guys. Kenta Maeda, 32 points in his start this week. 34 for Taijuan Walker, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But just overall, really really good pieces performing for both these guys as they'll look to the deadline to get some pieces for the future here.
And Cody.
Yeah, kind of the story, man. Bats are easy to find, and pitching is not. And if you ain't got pitching, it's hard to pick up the scraps and compete. I keep every week. I root for Connor, man. He works hard. He gets close a lot of weeks. I know he's trying. I know his focus is the future. He's really trying to turn some pieces he can get for this price, get a little more out of them, build some prospects, build some picks. But I also know he's definitely trying to beat you in the meantime, and I know he's working hard. He's going to get that dub. Scott's team, yeah, man, really this was just a battle offense, and Scott pulled it out, and that gave him the victory. Again, Scott's focus is very similar to what Connor's focus is. But Scott does have some young guys that's already there. Royce Lewis, C.J. Abrams, guys that are producing for him. Tristan Casas, Bryson Stott. I know Connor's glad Alex Thomas is back up. I'm with Paul, man. I really believe in that guy. I think he's a really good hitter. I think he's just young. Had to go down, work some things out. Camilo Doval with 46 points for Scott. I have been trying to get that guy for weeks. I keep, that's just a big time closer for a contending team. And, I know Scott's got his price. Both these teams are just hoping guys play well so they can trade them. And, interesting week, but congrats to Scott on the win.
Yeah, definitely. Good win by Scott, and again, Connor has been wheeling and dealing, and you'll see plenty more of that where he's going to be getting some good value out of some of these guys. Tommy Edman, too, has really turned it around. He's been really consistent lately. He had 44 But yeah, Alec Thomas has been good, and we talked about the Angels. He had Hunter Renfroe at 30, who I obviously had mixed feelings about, but he still had a good week. Some definitely good pieces there to potentially move for more. And again, Francisco Alvarez has kind of cooled off actually quite a bit since that initial hot stretch. But I mean, he's still the catcher of the future. One of the best catchers, young catchers in the game right now. Wouldn't be surprised if some of those bats move as well. And I can confirm as well, I've also tried for Duvall a couple of times in the past month and had no success. So I'm sure a contender might get him eventually, but maybe just not now. But we got one more matchup to do before we head to the deals. Smell, who had 3 less starts than Dave, took down Dave 461 to 426. And Paul, we'll start with you here.
Yeah, so while you guys were talking, I was looking at this matchup. The thing that sticks out to me first is for Smell, his bullpen. I mean, he had 3 guys that combined for about 80 points. I mean, 80 points from your bullpen in a week, especially in a week where you win by 35 points, that can be the difference. So it's 3 bullpen guys. Obviously, Smell and Dave both are looking for next year anyway at this point, most likely. So those 3 guys, especially a guy like Craig Kimbrell, closer for a pretty decent Phillies team, I'm sure you can get something for that. And then I was looking at one more thing. My guy, Spencer Steer, for Smell, 41 points. It's those young Reds that are just killing it right now. And he hits in that heart of that lineup. He's a really good bet. I'm sure that Smell is looking to keep for the future. As for Dave, Heimer Candelario, 58 points, just absolutely crazy. And then Anthony Santander, 62 points. He has home runs in 3 straight games, I think. Every game against the Mariners this weekend, he had a home run. And I'd also like to point out he robbed Julio Rodriguez of a home run today. I don't know if that would have made the difference in the matchup with John Haidt, but I saw it happen, and I immediately was not thrilled about it. So Tony Taters, great player. I'm sure Dave can get something for him.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up. I saw that and it was like, oh, damn, I forgot Julio was on your team. You only had him for 2 days. I was like, oh, that could have been bad.
But in 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, Julio is definitely Julio. We'll go to Cody next.
Yeah, man. I mean, Smell's one of those teams. He's definitely rebuilding, but he's brought in some pieces that can beat you. Dylan Cease has been big for him. He's kind of turned it around a little bit lately. He's not back to, Cy Young caliber Dylan Cease, but he's been consistent recently. And these are 2 teams again similar to the last matchup we did. That the focus is on the future. There's not a lot of pitching with either of these teams. Offensives played decently. Shout out Anthony Santander, 62 points. I mean, that guy is just a dog. Heimer Candelario with 58, and then of course Spencer Steer for Smell. I mean, that guy. I mean, the whole Reds team. I mean, if you want some production, go trade for a Cincinnati Red bat. But yeah, both these teams, I think they're kind of doing the same thing that Connor and Scott are doing. I think they're just hoping guys produce well, gain some value, and can become trade pieces for more prospects. But yeah, congrats to Smell. Big win. Dave, I don't think has won since he beat me. So that's always really cool when stuff like that happens. But congrats to Smell. And the battle for first place continues, or the battle for first overall pick continues.
And lastly, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, even Smell had some really bad pitching performances from Domingo Germán and Graham Ashcraft, combined for negative 26. But, I mean, Dylan Cease is back. I've always been a Dylan Cease believer and Dylan Cease fan. It's just a shame I'll never own him because I just can't get him from Smell. But 31 points for him is great. What do you call it? Been looking a little bit. Dylan Carlson had 32 points. Like some of these reclamation projects that he's been getting Nick Madrigal 30 points, Nick Senzel 21. Like, there are guys here on this team that people maybe would want. Same thing with Dave. Even though my best friend Spencer Torkelson had a rough week, -3 points in total for the week, he's still got some pretty good players like Santander and the other guys that you mentioned. But good win for Smell here, and we'll see what happens going forward. But both these teams, I expect pretty active trade deadlines coming up.
Yeah, shout out to Smell getting the dub. I saw on the pitching as well. Johnny Brito gave him a nice 26 piece. I was in attendance for that game. I couldn't believe it. I can't believe he beat Luis Castillo the way he did. But yeah, again, outside of those guys, if you talk about the relievers as well, you saw guys like Scott Barlow on the Royals gave him 28. Ronel Blanco on the Astros 26. So again, the relievers really got it done. Supplement, the starting pitching really not being there. But yeah, Dave's team, we talked about. There's definitely some pieces. Anthony Santander is such a dog. He's still got Correa. Candelario's been mashing lately. Again, it's just the pitching. It's a matter of trying to find the pitching. It might not be till next season, but Dave has a crap ton of prospects. That was a couple weeks ago where he just got just an absurd amount, especially some really big names for the guys he already had on his team that didn't really fit the timeline. So both teams are new wheeling and dealing heading into the deadline, which is coming up sooner than you think. But I think that does it for our recap of this past week's group of matchups for the pod. I'll turn it over to Cody now for all the trades that were made, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it wasn't a huge, in terms of this league's normal week for trades, but there was some very interesting deals that went down. We didn't get a lot of trades, but we got some big ones. The first one for that involves members of the podcast was Paul gets Alex Verdugo. Cody gets Joey Weimer, Cole Young, and Dalton Rushing. Paul, I'll let you go. What were your thoughts with bringing in Alex Verdugo?
Yeah, so I probably overpaid a little bit looking back at this. I mean, Cole Young is easily a top 100 prospect. I think Dalton Rushing's probably the same. And Joey Weimer's already up for the Brewers. So it's, 3 probably impact bats for one. But that one that I got, Verdugo, I really like him a lot. As Cody knows, as Braxton knows, as a lot of people in this league know, Verdugo is the guy I've identified for a few months now as somebody that I think really would work for my team. He's a 6-point bat. He doesn't strike out a lot. Walks a decent amount. Has a high average. I mean, it just screams Norfolk Tide. So it's a guy that I've been back and forth. Cody and I almost had this exact deal like a week ago, I think. And then I finally just said, okay, enough's enough. This was, I think, Tuesday. And I was in a battle with John Haidt, and I said, okay, give me this outfield bat. I want to try and take down John Haidt. Unfortunately, he went on bereavement, I think, Thursday. So I didn't get the full effect of an Alex Verdugo for a full week. But I do look forward to having him for this full week.
Yeah, super. That was one of the trades. I said that I regretted it. It's not that I regret trading Alex Verdugo for what I got. It's that literally 2 days later, Braxton hits me up. We'll talk about this trade later with just a home run package for Luis Robert. The reason I traded Alex Verdugo was because I was running 6 outfield deep, and the way that my team, the way that I have it, I'm kind of OCD with it. And I like it to be balanced, and I want guys at each position on my, depth matters and things like that. And so I really needed to move an outfielder so I could bring in something else and that I needed. And so, at the time I was excited to do it. And then Braxton hits me up 2 days later, and I was like, man, if I had Verdugo back, I would make that trade immediately. But I actually did get another outfielder in its place that we'll talk about later. As for what I got for Verdugo, to me it felt fair. Verdugo is very underrated in this league. Very productive bat. Not super flashy, doesn't have a lot of pop, but, he multiple hits a game. He's a doubles, just double guy. And like Paul mentioned, he doesn't strike out a lot. That being said, I thought it was a fair return there. So I think it was a good trade all in all for both of us. The next trade that went down, kind of a smaller deal here, Paul got Sean. Connor wishes he had that hair, Manaea. And Connor got Jackson Rutledge and Javier Baez. Paul, what was your thoughts with bringing in Sean Manaea?
So Sean Manaea, I actually got him because I thought he would be a bulk reliever at some point during this week, which this was all in attempt to beat John Haidt, which obviously came up a little bit short. But Sean Manaea is a guy that they moved him to the bullpen this year after a few bad starts. I think potentially he could move back into the rotation if the Giants need him to. But if he doesn't, he's been a good reliever, and it's a valued position in this league. Relievers that have starting pitcher eligibility. So essentially, it cost me 2 worse. I know Javier Baez is in that deal, but I couldn't shop Javi Baez for a worst to anybody in this league. To the point where I was near dropping him. But he started this week on my team. I think he had, like 20 points or something in over 3 days. So he is valuable. He has the YouTube clip strikeouts, but he also, hits home runs. He hits doubles, triples. He steals bases. He has value, and I'm sure Connor at some point will trade him for a worse, 2 worse to a team that'll need him. But I paid essentially 2 worse for Manaea. Thought that was fair. Again, maybe I overpaid by a worst, but at the end of the day, it was something that I wanted to try and beat John Haidt. And then it didn't work out, but I still have Manaea, and I still think he's good for probably 20 to 25 points a week, which that holds value.
Absolutely. And the next trade, so this was the big one, I would say, probably the biggest of the week. Bracton gets Bryce Elder, Mackenzie Gore, Brett Beatty, Jack Sawinski, Kyle Manzardo, Ricky Tiedemann, and Jordan Westberg. And Paul gets Julio Rodriguez. Bracton will owe Paul a worst by Halloween that I think he eventually paid just a few days later. Bracton, I'll let you go first. Trading Julio couldn't be easy, but what did you think about the return you got here?
So, okay, everybody always, my whole thing since I've been here, right, is try to make smart downgrades is what I've been told, right? Just smart downgrades and pick up as many pieces as you can. Like, Julio Rodriguez is my guy. I love that dude. I didn't want to deal him, but my team at the moment didn't have a lot of depth, and I was worried about it. I'm going to be playing John Haidt in 2 weeks, and I definitely wanted to get some more pieces in-house I thought would be good. I like all 3 of these prospects, Manzardo, Tiedemann, Westberg, but the plan was to move them for Julio Rodriguez's replacement, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Bryce Elder and Mackenzie Gore are 2 arms that I loved. Both of them are very young. I see them as each 20-point-per-game arms for the foreseeable future. And Bryce Elder's on a good team. Gore's on an up-and-coming team that I like. I already have an investment in there with Josiah Grace, and I got the 2 best pitchers on that team, I feel like. And then Brett Beatty, Eduardo Escobar was traded this week. If the Mets decide it's time to unleash Brett Beatty, I want to be here for it. I'm technically still a Mets fan, despite me not really watching them a lot this year because they haven't been very good. But Brett Beatty, if he is what he's supposed to be, I like what he can bring. Sawinski was just an outfield depth piece that I kind of wanted in this deal because I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull off the second deal. So I just wanted to have another young outfield body in there. But again, Tita and John Haidt and Hen said it on the podcast last week. My team didn't have a lot of depth. I kind of wanted to get that depth because I thought I could get a replacement, and I eventually did. So I view it as Bryce Elder, Mackenzie Gore, Brett Beatty, Jack Stawinski, and the downgrade from Julio Rodriguez to Luis Robert. To get all that stuff, I feel like is not that huge of a downgrade. In my opinion, there are others that disagree, that think Luis Robert is wildly inconsistent and everything, but this has been a guy I've been trying to get for 2 or 3 years. Since he's been on my team, he's had 8 at-bats and he's got 40 points. So he's off to a good start. I hope he can continue that because he is one of my favorite players in baseball. I feel like he can be in that MVP caliber player discussion, and I think of him very highly. And to get those 2 arms, Beatty and Jack Stawinski, to take that downgrade from Rodriguez to Robert, I feel like was worth it for me in the long
run. And Paul, you got the prize here with Julio Rodriguez. What was your thoughts? How did you talk yourself into paying that kind of package to get a guy like Julio?
It's pretty simple for me. Julio Rodriguez is a cornerstone in this league. You don't just trade for those type of guys. So if they become available, you kind of pay what you got to pay. I know I paid a lot. I got Kyle Manzardo a couple weeks ago, I think from Bry, and I told pretty much anybody that asked that he's not available, that he's just going to be with me forever. Because Kyle Manzardo is probably, I guess Jackson Holliday is number 1, but for me, Kyle Manzardo is like the prospect that I covet. He's a power guy. He doesn't strike out. He walks a decent amount, and he hits for average. That's what you look for in a bat, especially a first baseman. So including him was probably the hardest part of this trade. Jordan Westburg as well. He just got called up for the Orioles. I was operating on the impression that he would just never get called up and just be traded. But they called him up, so I kind of regret including him. Tiedemann, I've heard, he should be healthy, but he hasn't pitched in 6 or 7 weeks. It always kind of a little bit scary for pitching prospects when they don't pitch for a while. Bryce Elder, he's fine. He's a good pitcher. I think there's regression coming for him. Same with Mackenzie Gore. I know he threw up 30 today, but it's a pitcher on a bad team that, he's young, but at the same time, if I had to include him, it wasn't going to stop me. Brett Beatty, same thing. Braxton kind of hit on it. I liked him a lot. Including him wasn't my favorite thing because, as Braxton said, they traded Escobar this week. So it's probably the Brett Beatty show now for the foreseeable future for the Mets. But at the end of the day, it's Julio Rodriguez. And that's what I said to myself. That's why I ended up doing it. He's a guy that I'll pair with Adley Rutschman. I'll pair with Taj Bradley. He is now one of the faces of the Norfolk Tides, and I intend to keep him for a long, long time. So,
absolutely. And next on the list of deals, as we move on, Paul, you were in another one. Busy week for you. You brought in Zach Eflin. You traded Felnin Celestin, Christian Vaquero, and Drew Gilbert to Tita. Paul, what was your thoughts with bringing in a guy like Zach Eflin?
So, it's the trade, the Paul trade show for now, but this is my last one for this week. I moved 2 pitchers when I moved for Julio Rodriguez. So I looked at it and I said, well, let's try and get one back. I know Tita's been dangling Eflin for a while. And I had assets to move, and it's everyone's like, "Whoa, Paul's got 50 prospects, this and that, blah blah blah." Well, I have that many prospects for a reason, and the reason is exactly this type of trade. Eflin's 29; he's still young, in my opinion. I know that's not some people's opinions, but he's a guy that's finally coming into his own for Tampa this year, I think. In terms of what I give up, Celestin, I think he's going to be a really good prospect, but at the same time, he's 17 years old. He's not seeing the major leagues for 4 or 5 years. Same thing with Vaquero. He's another young, good prospect, outfield prospect for the Nationals. But he's 18, and he's not going to see the bigs for 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, I did the deal because, I like those 2 prospects, but at the end of the day, I need pitching because I'm trying to. Again, I know he wasn't going to pitch this week against John Height, but I need to compete because of my schedule I have coming up. I'm going to be playing guys that if I don't field a decent team, I'm just going to get steamrolled. And quite frankly, I'm not about getting steamrolled. That's just not who I am. That's not who I'm going to be. I'm going to try and compete. If I lose by 30 points when I score 729 points, at least I scored 729 points.
Absolutely. And the next trade, so this kind of goes back to me trading Alex Verdugo away, and then the Luis Robert offer came in. And so I was kind of scrambling to find an outfield replacement. I was thinking in terms of Verdugo value-wise. And so I went out and got Brian Reynolds from Tita for the exact same package I got for Alex Verdugo. For me, this was simple. I know Reynolds is on the IL right now. My schedule's kind of soft in the immediate future, so I can kind of be a little patient with the IL guys. It doesn't look serious. I think Brian Reynolds is very comparable to Alex Verdugo, if not maybe a hair better. So, for me, that was kind of a simple deal. I just needed I needed to take the package I got for Luis Robert, and I needed an outfield bat that I could rely on in his place. So the next deal was the Luis Robert deal. Braxton gets Luis Robert. I got Ricky Tiedemann, Kyle Manzardo, and Jordan Westberg. Braxton, I'll let you go first. I know you've wanted Luis Robert for a while. What did it feel like to finally get your guy?
So on, I believe it was the 4th of July, 2021, was the last time I owned Luis Robert until the other night. I traded my old friend Thomas, Casey Mize for Luis Robert for Casey Mize straight up, which I've been regretting ever since. Luis Robert is a baller. Like I said, I think he's he's in the outfield tier below Julio Rodriguez to me, but again, to get all of that stuff back, to make what I think is a minimal downgrade to Luis Robert, it was worth it for me, and he's one of my favorite players. So I love Ricky Tiedemann too, though. Kyle Manzardo's good, but I have Vinny Pasquantino. It wasn't a huge need for me, and I have Ellie De La Cruz, so I didn't need Westbrook. So it was a lot. I think it was a win-win for both of us because Cody likes every player involved too. But it's Luis Robert, man. He's the face of my outfield now, and I'm gonna build around him going forward. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, for me, and I don't want to make it sound like I think that I got an overpay necessarily for Luis Robert. It's just these 3 prospects are 3 guys that I really, really like. You can ask Bri. I've been on Bri for Manzardo all season long. Westberg's kind of been moved, and I've always missed kind of being the one that got him. And then Braxton owned Tiedemann for a long time. He was always untouchable. He ended up moving him to Paul in a large deal. Paul flips him back to Braxton. And then, he put the 3 of those guys together, and it was something I had to jump on. Tiedemann is really, really, really talented. Dealing with an injury right now, but, no surgeries. He's in extended spring. He should be back soon on the mound in AA. Manzardo is somebody that I really feel like is an elite first base bat in AAA, doing really well. I think he'll be up in Tampa soon, and Westberg got caught up, tonight. So Yeah, Luis Robert is supremely talented. He's frustrating to own, but he's supremely talented. And, I just really like what I got here. And I knew when Braxton put that package together, that was something I had to jump at. The next trade we'll discuss here is John Height. Kind of says, hold my beer, let me get in on this action. He trades for Merrill Kelly, and he gave Luis Severino, Jacob Melton, and Dylan Beavers. John Height, what was your thoughts with snagging Merrill Kelly?
Yeah, I'll say first and foremost, I made a lot of trades this year. As of right now, not one of my more brighter ones. The thought process was, at the time, I think this was Saturday night, or which is last night actually, at the time we're recording this. Paul was, before I played Kelly, I think I was up 20. Like, I had just taken the lead on Paul. And Luis Severino, who has been dog shit this year, and as a Yankees fan, I watched, most of his starts. His velo was down. I know he's 29, but he's a guy that's probably going to leave the Yankees soon. I just, was tired of getting negative to under 10-point starts from him, and he was losing value by the minute. He was going up against the Texas Rangers at home, and I was like, all right, I didn't want to even play this guy this week. He's going to get his shit rocked by the best offense in baseball right now. So I went to Tita, and before Merrill Kelly, I had been trying for Nathan Eovaldi for weeks, and Tita can back me up on that. At the time, the price for Eovaldi was way too expensive, even though I really wanted him. Merrill Kelly was a guy I had in the offseason, and then traded him away before I knew he was going to be this good. Before the evil start he had for me, I think he was like a 26-point per game pitcher. He's a top 15 pitcher right now in the rankings. He's just been having a great season. I love the 1-2 punch of him and Gallen. The Diamondbacks have been really, really good. Diamondbacks score a lot of runs, ton of run support. So, type of guy that, I thought was going to give me a good start against the San Francisco Giants, who I know have been having a pretty good year, and they've been playing really well as of late. But did not expect Severino to go for a 30 bomb against the Rangers and Kelly to give me -9 when Kelly hadn't had a negative start, I think at least 10 starts or something. So just supremely bad luck. For me, outside of trading Brian Reynolds the day before, he went for 80 points in a week, which didn't end up really mattering in the end. But, outside of that, it almost cost me the week. If I had just kept Sevy against the Rangers, I would have won by 60 if you add 30 points to that instead of Kelly. But, I still think Kelly can do some good things for me. Outside of the start, he's been fantastic this year. Again, the older arms, I know they're more injury prone, but Tito always says, they're reliable. I like Kelly. Outside of this, I know he's a bit risky. I think he's a little bit more matchup dependent because of the depth I have. I don't really have to play him every single start. But he's got the upside with being a Diamondbacks pitcher and the way they're playing. So, again, I'm still out Severino. One start does not move me whatsoever. The needle is not moved. And I hope this trade will look better for me in hopefully a couple weeks.
Understood. And we don't normally do this, but this was a big enough trade. I'd like to go around the room pretty quickly. We'll touch on this one. Last night, Bry traded for Tyler Wells, Emmett Sheehan, and Jacob Melton. Tita got Pablo Lopez and Emmanuel Valdez. Paul, I'm going to let you go first. Just real quickly, kind of what's your thoughts with this deal between Tita and Bry?
So Bry was trying to get me to take on Pablo Lopez a little bit too this week. Just a quick peek behind the curtain. We never could find the right compensation. I do like Pablo Lopez quite a bit. I know his ERA is a little higher, but I like him a lot. The return, though, was Wells, Sheehan, and Melton. Wells has been really good this year for the Orioles. I keep waiting for the shoe to drop, but it really hasn't with him. Maybe he is legit now. Sometimes that happens. But the prize here is Sheehan, I think. I really like Emmett Sheehan. I think he's pitched now twice for the Dodgers. I really like his potential. So overall, Tita got what he wanted in terms of a steady major league pitcher. And Bry gets a decent package with Wells and Sheehan.
And John Hyde, what did you kind of see in this trade?
Yeah, definitely a little bit unexpected. I know Bry's been trying to move some other pitchers that I'm not going to name because he still might be moving them. But Pablo Lopez is a guy, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, first of all, Tyler Wells just been an absolute dog this year for the Orioles. I know Tita was trying to move him to really capitalize on that value in case he was going to fall down a little bit. I know Emmett Sheehan had that electric first start as well. And Jacob Melton's a guy I've had like 5 times this year. I think he's the second-ranked Astros prospect as of now. Just a very intriguing trade. It's really hard for me to say who won just because I think Bry got some very good value there. I think it all depends if Wells just keeps up this tear he's been on so far this season. Like Paul mentioned, if he's able to keep that pace up. Sheehan's obviously young, got the upside. Is he going to stay? The Dodgers rotation should be interesting to see. Pablo Lopez as well has some not so great starts here and there, but overall very solid pitcher. I think worth the price. But yeah, definitely a trade I don't think really leans in overwhelmingly in one person's favor. Some good balance and some good pieces on both sides.
Braxton, what's your thoughts with this deal?
Yeah, I think it's a fair trade for both sides. Really, the X factor is going to be Emmett Sheehan if he's actually continues playing the way he is. I think that Bry will have the last overall win in this deal if Wells can be consistent. But Sheehan's the X factor here. I really like him. I like Jacob Melton too a little bit, but really it's the Emmett Sheehan show for Bry. If he's legit, then I think Bry's got it. But Pablo Lopez is a good player too. He's been passed around a little bit this year, and he definitely has flip value. So if Tito wants to trade him, I know he can get insane value for him because that's what Tito does. He gets max value for his players. So if he's very flippable, so I could probably see that happening maybe. So, but I really like some of the pieces Bry got.
Yeah. I would agree. I think Sheehan is definitely the X factor in that trade. I know that Tita doesn't trust Rodden Young pitching, and it's hard to argue with him there. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs with it, and I know that he felt like Pablo Lopez was a good prize to bring in. So interesting trade there. The next trade that we will discuss is between me and Tita. Simple trade. I got Dansby Swanson. Tita got Jeremy Pena and Landon Sims. I don't know really what to say about this other than the fact of I traded Nico Horner about a week ago, and I haven't slept much, so I needed to bring in a Cub, and Dansby Swanson was probably my second favorite Cub. So me and Tito worked out a little deal there. Not a lot going on. Listen, Payne is just as good as Swanson. All things considered, it should have been 1-for-1. But Tito plays hardball. Tito would probably say that I played hardball because he wanted a little bit more than just Landon Sims. But we settled on Pena in the worst for Dansby Swanson. I think we were both walked away pretty happy. Simple trade there. The next trade was between me and Connor. Connor got Zach DeZenzo, J.J. Gose, a third and a second. And I got Taijuan Walker and Jorbit Vivas. Jorbit, yeah, Jorbit Vivas is a good prospect. You guys have made him a meme, but he's a good prospect.
Great.
Kind of a simple trade here. For me, Taijuan Walker's a guy that's been steady. Listen, I don't think I'm bringing in an ace here, but this was a depth move. This was John Hyde. I see your Merrill Kelly. I'm going to go get Taijuan Walker kind of trade. Really, all this is. DeZenzo's a guy that's hitting like freaking 400 this year for the Astros. Ghost is a guy that pitches about 2 miles up the road from where I live, so I like him. And 2 draft picks. Connor got good value for Taijuan, but it was I felt I needed to bring him in. I've got a bunch of young pitchers, and Taijuan kind of come in and steady for me. And then Jorbit Vivas is a guy that I'm kind of intrigued on. So yeah, pretty interesting trade. The next trade, Tita gets Jack Flaherty. I got Christian Vaquero, Dylan Beavers, and Bubba Chandler. For me, this was simple. I was getting nauseous from the Jack Flaherty roller coaster, and I wanted off the ride. I mean, really, he's a guy that I kind of brought in earlier in the year as kind of the end of my rotation, the back end of my rotation. I thought, hey, it's Jack Flaherty. If he gets it going, that's a really good pitcher in the back end of my rotation. And it really never transpired into that. And the next trade that we will discuss is John Haidt brings in Nathan Eovaldi. Tita gets 7 draft picks. John Haidt, what were your thoughts on paying what many would believe is a premium for Nathan Eovaldi?
Yeah, so again, like I said before, Eovaldi's been a guy I've been trying to get for a very, very long time. I've just been always a huge fan of him, even way before this ace breakout he's had again, at this stage of his career. I know he's been battling injuries and all that. But again, like I said before, a little backstory. I saw him live, and I saw him beat the crap out of the Yankees when he was a member of the Red Sox. And I know he used to have history with the team as well. Guy I've always wanted. Tita just was not willing to sell him when he had his price at an all-time high, and fair enough, he was absolutely balling, had the complete game shutout and all that. But, everyone's talking about the regression a little bit. He's still a 28-point-per-game pitcher, SP4 right now. He's had 19, 26, 11, and 17 his last 4 starts. I think at the minimum, he could still be a 20-point-per-game pitcher. Let's say if he completely regresses and falls off, which I think is still a huge deal. When we're talking about playoffs, a guy I can rely on. He's on an amazing Texas team with a great offense. He's going to get wins regardless. So I love that for him. You look at the price. I also said this before. Similar to our old hockey league when Brackton traded for Erik Karlsson for a crap ton of draft capital. I did the same thing here, but to a little lesser extent. And, it looks like a lot when you really look at the picks. And these picks are that I've accumulated from just, roster churning, guys that already filled some spots. None of it, for me, really moved the needle at all. I was originally going to do this for, almost all my picks, but we were able to talk it down. I gave a 26 first, which is, 3 years from now, 2 seconds. None of them were in 2024. None of the picks outside of one of my thirds was in next year's draft, which was a big thing for me. And, 4 thirds, we talk about third and fourths aren't really as valuable compared to first and second. So it looks like a lot on paper, but I'd have to give up any one of my majors roster or any of my prospects. All that matter for a guy who's, the 4th best pitcher in baseball right now, I think is still going to remain elite. He might not be the superstar he's been, before these 4 starts, but he's playing for the Texas Rangers. He's shown that he's a dog as long as he stays healthy. I think it's going to be a great trade, and I'm very excited for him going forward. Just adds to the depth, a guy that wasn't expected to be this good, and I think he's going to be at the minimum of a 20-point-per-game pitcher going forward, and let's go Nathan Eovaldi.
Absolutely. And the last trade we'll discuss went down mid-podcast here, and I think that this trade's big enough. I'm going to go around the room a little bit, but probably going to shock some people. But Jamie receives Aaron Nola and Sandy Alcantara. Cody gets Jazz Chisholm and George Kirby. I'm going to actually go over to Brackton first. Brackton, what's your thoughts with this trade?
Well, all right, 2 things. First, before I give my thoughts on this trade, I do want to mention the one trade that was in between this. The Tita gets Clark Schmidt in 2024 sounds first for the 2026 pick that was acquired in the Nathan Eovaldi trade and 2 prospects. I think that this is an example of Tita being Tita, turning stuff he doesn't want into something that he does want and being able to kind of game the trade market a little bit. He got his own first-round pick back in this year's draft, which is supposed to be a really good draft, and he got that and a lot of other assets for Nathan Eovaldi. I'm just going to say it cancels out a little bit. Really, really good asset management there on Tita's part. And I like the deal for Connor too, but I thought the firsts were interesting. But as far as your deal goes, I guess Jamie heard me when I was calling him out a little bit ago, it's a completely different rotation now. I think George Kirby is better than both of those arms, in my opinion. However, it's a 2-for-1, and he's in a pitching spot where he needs people and actual bodies, and now he's got two of them that I think are pretty high level for compared to one, and someone that's been on his IL for a little while, not doing anything for him. So I like the deal for both sides, but I think Jamie got his need figured out a little bit. So good on him.
And Paul, what did you think about this trade?
Yeah, I pretty much exactly echo what Braxton said. He needed to get, and he got two pitchers. Two really good pitchers at that with Nola and Alcantara. I mean, aces when they're at their best. I know Sandy hasn't been at his best this year. I think he can get back to at least close to what he was last year. I'm not sure if he'll be that guy. But at the end of the day, the best player on the deal, in my opinion, is George Kirby. He's 25 years old. He averages 30 points a game. He strikes everybody out. He's a top 5 pitcher in this league. I think that's pretty safe to say. They're pointing up still. So at the end of the day, it's tough to lose two pitchers, but it's not as tough when you're getting the best pitcher back. So I think it's a win-win because like we had said, like Braxton had said, he needs pitching. Jamie needs pitching, and he got two pitchers that'll help him out a lot.
And John Height, what are your thoughts with this trade?
Yeah, my first gut thought was like, damn, Jamie's problem just got a little bit easier in the span of the hour we've been recording. Aaron Nola again started off pretty slow. He's been getting hot lately. Again, he's still an ace. He still will be an ace for a long time. Getting him and then Sandy, who I know has been flipped around just a bunch lately. It looks like he's been washed. So at the minimum for Jamie, he's got another start to have going forward. He's obviously waiting for some guys to come back. I know some like DeGrom unfortunately won't be back this season. So he's at a point where having Sandy, maybe he could just get to a 20-point per game pitcher.Maybe he doesn't get back to what he is last season. He probably won't. I don't think he will personally, but he's still going to be an elite option, by at least the end of the season and all that. But in terms of Cody, getting George Kirby is so good at baseball and being at such a young age too on a fun Mariners team. Just again, the best pitcher in the deal right now in my mind. It would be funny if we look at this before the season because we definitely probably wouldn't say that. At least a lot of us wouldn't. Because we'd probably say Sandy or even Nola. He's a little bit older, but coming off the year he had, and then Jazz as well, adding to the young elite bats that Cody has. He's on the IL right now. He'll be back soon. But, he's traded away Nico Horner, like you mentioned, and what's his name, Luis Ariz as well. So, getting a second base like Jazz, who obviously I don't think is the greatest fantasy bat by any means, but he's young, he's got the upside, he's fun, and I think it's a good trade overall by both sides.
Yeah, so from my perspective here, I got to say, when I made the trade with Hendog for Sandy, I kind of thought I was the smartest man in the world. And then 3 starts later, I kind of felt like the dumbest man in the world. Does that make sense? And so, I don't know what's wrong with Sandy Alcantara. I don't know what the deal is, but there's definitely something wrong. And so I just felt I needed to make the move. Now, if I can capitalize at max value. Aaron Nola's the guy, I'm not thrilled to give up. He was kind of a consistent force with my pitching staff. But I think that George Kirby more than replaces him and makes that blow okay for me. George Kirby's the guy, as everybody's mentioned, I'm super high on. I think he's an elite arm. I think he's getting better. So I'm really excited to get him. And not a lot of people mention Jazz here. Jazz was a big, big piece for me in this trade. And really the second base has nothing to do with it. I'm super deep at second base still with Jonathan India, Nolan Gorman, Miguel Vargas. Jazz in my outfield is what I'm excited about. And, you know, he's been on a rehab stint all week. He's due back any day now. So, you know, getting him back and healthy soon is going to be big for me. You know, anytime you deal with Jamie, as anybody that's traded with him here knows, you know, it's not exactly easy, but this came together pretty quickly. He actually offered it to me, and I felt the need to go ahead and jump on it. So I'm pretty excited with it. I like the kind of the youth I brought in. From what I mentioned with Jack Flaherty and just wanting to get off that roller coaster ride, kind of the same with Sandy, although there hasn't really been any highs. It's just been lows. So, yeah, massive trade to go down during the podcast. That's it for the trades of the week. I will turn it back over to John Height as we move into the matchup preview for next week.
Yep, so thank you, Cody. We're on a week 13 here at the Johnny Lee Memorial League. So we got some interesting matchups to look at. You know, you look through the schedule, a couple of big marquee ones. But I'll start with the real best team in the league, the Bismarck Larks. We're taking on Connor, and Bracton, we'll start with you for this one. What do you think is going to happen this week?
Well, I mean, no disrespect to Connor. I think I'm going to win this week, and I think it's going to be by a decent amount. I mean, he's been in my PMs telling me that he hasn't been looking forward to this, that I'm going to win for a couple weeks here, especially after some of the moves I've made and everything. But I love what he's doing. I think it will be a probably 200 or 150, but we'll see. I could see some of his guys popping off, but maybe mine come down and it's closer than we think. But I think I've got it this week.
We'll go to Paul now.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Bracton's going to win this week. No disrespect to Connor, but the team that Bracton has assembled is pretty impressive. You know, his bats are young and good, and his arms are young and mostly good. So, yeah, Bracton's going to win this week. It's just a matter of how many points he scores, because at the end of the day, it's about what you score. I mean, I know it's easy to say that as a guy that just lost by scoring over 700, but, I mean, I have to believe that scoring high, it'll get you wins in this league, and I think Bracton's going to score pretty high.
And Cody.
Yeah, man. You know, I always root for Connor. He manages really hard every week. But I just think Bracton's got the superior team right now. So I'm going to give the dub to Bracto. I think his little winning streak continues. The head's going to get bigger. You know, we'll see what happens in the future, but I think this week Bracton pulls out the win.
Yeah, so for me, no disrespect to Connor. I just think, I don't think it's going to be a blowout like he was saying. I do think Bracton's going to win. Again, I don't think Ellie's going to have a cycle again. I mean, maybe he'll prove me wrong and have another one, which would be absurd. But, I mean, especially adding Robert, who right now I think is the number one ranked center fielder, at least on Fantrax. You know, the offense is there. Even if the pitching's shaky, and especially if McClanahan's gone, he'll win for this week and then, you know, go from there and extend the winning streak for now. Next matchup we'll turn to Paul's matchup versus Chad, the Oklahoma City Dodgers. Paul, you can go first.
So I'd like to say I'm going to win this week. I do think I will win, but I mean, I feel like I play up to the good teams and I play down to the bad teams. I'm not saying Chad's got a bad team by any means, because the last time I said that about a team, they beat me twice. So, I mean, I think I'll win. I really like to see how my team performs this week. I finally feel like my offense has kind of got their act together a little bit. I feel like my pitching also is kind of rounding into form. So I'm excited to see, hopefully, knock on wood, a fully healthy week, a full week where I have the bats rolling and the arms rolling. My goal is over 600, as it is every week. And if I get that, I think I'll win.
And Cody?
Yeah, sorry about that. What matchup are we on, guys?
Paul versus Chad.
Okay, yeah. Paul's going to rebound nicely this week. Like I said earlier when we were talking about his loss this week to John Haidt, he scored 700 points. I know he's probably feeling down, taking the L, but he shouldn't. If he can replicate anything close to 700 points, I think he's going to survive and get a W this week. But like I mentioned about Chad, man, Chad played me tough. He's got some players that are going to produce for him. So, Paul's going to have to, have a good week to win, but I do think he will, and I think Paul survives and gets the W this week.
And Bracton.
Yeah, same thing as what everybody else has been saying. I do think Paul's going to win. I don't think it'll be very close, though. I'm going to give Paul the win here.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are assembling a very good young, prospect pool, and the amount of draft capital for this year's draft. He controls the board. But for this week, I'm going to take the Tides as well. We'll next turn to Cody versus Scott, the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Cody, you can lead off.
Yeah, so, I feel pretty confident, and I think I'll survive and take the W this week. But again, Scott's one of those teams similar to Chad and similar to Dave who beat me. They can have big weeks. You've got to produce to beat them. My team's been a little inconsistent lately. I know I'm going to have to break that 600-point threshold to survive this week. That's something I should do, but I'm not necessarily confident I can do it week in and week out. But, I think I'll survive this week and take the W.
We'll go to Bracton next.
I think Cody's going to win. It's not going to be particularly close. I think he'll rebound after a couple of low-scoring weeks by his standards. He'll be fine in this one. I could see 200 plus.
And Paul.
I'll take Cody too. I'm interested to see Cedric Mullins. He's finally back. He came back over the weekend. At least mostly a fully healthy Bowling Green Hot Rods team is pretty scary to go against. Cody's going to win. The question is, point he'll score probably around 700. Cody had just said, he'll struggle to get to 600 every week. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know for the last couple of weeks he's done that, but I think it's been more about injuries than performance. I think a fully healthy team is going to be very scary to play regular season as well as postseason. So I like Cody.
Yeah, give me the Hot Rods in that one. Next matchup will be the Hartford Argonauts, me versus Dave, and the Rochester Red Wings. And I'll let for this one, but I'll get my thoughts after you guys.
Yeah, so again, I don't think this will be particularly close. That's no knock on Dave. We know what Dave's building for the future. John Haidt's probably going to cruise to 13-0 now. Mm-hmm. At this point, I'm hoping he just goes into the playoffs undefeated because that's horrible luck. So, big win for the Yard Goats this week.
We'll go to Paul next.
Yeah, this is going to be that close. This is probably the blowout of the week. Dave's team kind of trending downwards. Obviously, John Haidt's team, doesn't matter where he's trending. He's going to score over 700 points and kill your dreams. If this is prospects versus prospects, I'll take Dave's team. But Zach Gallen looks like he has a double start. Verlander a double start. It's not going to be pretty. I don't think this week. So it's going to be tough, Dave.
Definitely will be. And I'm going to give a list. I have very few prospects. I have Volpe, and then Jackson Chourio just recently was bumped up to number one prospect in baseball. But I'd still rather take Dave's prospect pool with the bazillion guys he has. And Bracton, you can go last.
Yeah, that's echoing what everybody's been saying. You're going to win by a lot. So I think this is going to be a theme around the league this week. Is there's going to be a lot of blowouts, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, again, my team, obviously scored 700 points to take down Paul. I mean, the week before that was when I almost hit I almost hit 1,000. I think I'm going to bounce back if that's a thing here, just because I had some guys that didn't perform, especially in my pitching, adding Evaldi and Kelly as well to the core. I mean, I got Rodon back, not this week, I mean next week, so I hope I can get the dub, but I mean, Dave beat Cody, so I'm not, you can't take anyone remotely lightly in this league. I'm trying to score as many points as possible for who I'm playing against, see, other teams around the league, and for points for, obviously. So trying to get the win and stay undefeated. Next matchup we'll do, probably the matchup of the week. I think we can all agree on it. Hen versus Bry. That is going to be a very intriguing matchup. And we'll start with Bracton here.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. Playoff implications on the line here too. Hen is 7-5 and Bry is 7-4-1. So both definitely got a lot riding on this. If I had to pick one, I'm gonna root for Bry because if Hen loses, he's 7-6, and if I win, I'm 7-6, and that'd be pretty funny if I had the exact same record as Hen through 13 weeks of the season. So that's the narrative I'm gonna push. So I'm going to pick Bry, but it's going to be close.
Interesting. We'll go to Paul next.
So definitely the matchup of the week. Looking at Hen's team, because it looks like he set his matchup or his lineups for the week. Interesting to me that he has Ezekiel Duran in more than he has Jordan Walker in. I mean, obviously, Ezekiel Duran's been a very solid performer this year. It just seems like Walker's starting to come into his own a little bit. But anyway, it's gonna be definitely the matchup of the week. You can't go against Hen right now. I mean, he almost dropped 900 points this past week. Bry's gonna be there. He's gonna be there at the end of this matchup. Both teams, I think, will be 700. Somebody's gonna have hopes crushed. But I'll side with Hen though.
And Cody.
Yeah, I mean, Hen's championship run has begun, and I don't think it slows down this week. Listen, Brad's team's good, and Brad's going to string the hell out of his team this week against Hen. But I think Hen's just got too much. His team's clicking on all cylinders, and as long as Lane Thomas is in that lineup, I'm going to pick Hen to win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really fun one between these two teams. I'm talking about Bry with his streaming. I think Hen, probably top 3 in the league. I think the same, methodology with some of these relievers he's been just getting huge contributions from. So I think he can already match that. And I do think Hen's roster is better on paper than Bry's as well. So I'm going to take Hen. I do think it will be somewhat close towards the end. I think it'll be relatively close, but yeah, it's hard. You can't pick against Hen's team right now. So next matchup, we'll do the new look Tampa Tarpons versus the Kannapolis Cannonballers and Homco, and we'll start with Cody on this one.
Yeah, so Jamie kind of answered the bell, right? He lengthened that pitching, got a little deeper. We'll see what Sandy can give him. I think me and Hendog have our doubts about what Sandy's going to give him, but you get the need he felt to bring in those arms. Aaron Nola will probably be big for him. I'm not unsure of what the matchups are going to look like. I know Sandy's on a 2-start week. I'm not sure what Nola was, but Homco. Listen, man, the team's good. We kind of bang the table for Homco every week, but Jamie's just got too much. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say Jamie wins by 150 this week, and I think Jamie gets to 12 starts.
We'll go to Bracton next.
Yeah, I'm not sold. I'm picking Homco. I don't think Jamie's going to reach the 12 starts. I think that Homco's arms might actually be better right now, top to bottom. I'm really high on Homco's arms. And as long as the offenses can stay within 50 points of each other, I think pitching is going to be the difference. I think Homco's going to take it, but it's going to be closer than we think, probably 25, 50 points in my mind.
And we'll go to Paul.
I'd like to pick Comco, but I mean his best pitcher is Yuri Perez, and he might have one start this week. Again, they've talked about putting him on a pause, and that one start would come against Atlanta. It's a tough lineup to go against. So I mean, even if he makes that one start, it's gonna not maybe go great for him. Whereas again, talking about it, Jamie just got 2 borderline aces. That's really going to help his team go, his pitching at least go. So I think Jamie's going to win this one pretty handily, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jamie on this one. The offense alone, I think, could beat a lot of teams that are looking more towards the future. And again, Homko's got a very good offense as well. But yeah, I think the Yuri Perez stuff, I really hope he does pitch. I think I read on the Fantrax thing, they want to prevent late season fatigue because this is like the most he's thrown, I think, for his career innings wise or something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong, but something along those lines. So give me Jamie for this week. And the last matchup on tap is Tita and the Nashville Sounds looking to get back in the win column, be taking on Smell and the Chihuahuas. We'll start with Paul.
Yeah, Tita, again, he remakes his team. I think he took a little bit of a hit overall in his pitching for this week at least, or at least as of the recording of this podcast. I think it's going to hurt him a touch, but of any week, I think this week he can afford that. Smell, he's got decent bats, he's got decent arms, 1 or 2 here and there. But it's just not enough to take down a team like Tita's. So I'll take Tita. He'll be, close to 700, probably around 650. And I don't think Smell gets to 600. So.
Yeah, and we'll go to Braxton now.
Yeah, I'm with Paul. I think the Tita's got it, and it's going to be pretty handily, probably 100.
And Cody.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say Tita's going to win. But it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I mean, I know Tita says he's not burning the team down, but he's traded a lot of pitching away in the last couple days. Brought in Pablo Lopez, but, traded Tyler Wells and Sheehan in that deal. He's lost Eovaldi. He's lost Merrill Kelly. That's going to take a little bit of a hit. As always, Tita's going to make more moves. Who knows who he's planning to bring in to replace those guys? I'm sure, he's got a plan for that. But as it stands right now, I think the Sounds are going to win. But I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think. Smell's coming off a win. And, if he's got Dylan Cease. And, he's got some talent there. I think he can keep it semi-close this week, but I do think Tita wins.
Yeah, I think some good points are brought up. I'm going to take Tita as well. And, again, a lot of his offense, I mean, the guy I want to talk about, Christian Walker, I didn't realize is the 15th overall point scorer as well. I'm just the guy on the Diamondbacks team that just, doubles and home run merchant, just getting a ton of points. There's a lot of streaky batters on this team, and when they're hot, they're hot. I think some of them, like Schwarber, were really cold last week, and I think that'll change, when they're not playing against the Braves. I know, like, the Phillies are playing against the Braves. So, again, the pitching definitely took a hit, but for this week at least, I think the offense is probably going to carry it. But I do think Smell is also going to make it somewhat interesting, at least for the first 5 days. I think by the weekend, though, guys like Adolis, Teoscar Hernandez, Schwarber, they're just going to carry over the weekend and give Tita the dub and get back into the win column. So that wraps up the previews for Week 13 of the Johnny Lee Memorial League. So we've come to the last part of the show where we're just going to talk about our final thoughts before we wrap things up. I'll start with Braxton.
Yeah, it's been a fun couple of weeks for me as I'm building my team a little bit. Started off 4-0 and then lost a lot. Now I'm on a little winning streak here. I want to see it continue this week against Connor, but starting off the week with a big trade like the one Cody and Jamie made maybe could increase like the deals around here a little more. I'm excited to see what everybody does this week. I think that not a lot of these matchups are going to be very close, but I think the deals will start to pick up. So I'm excited to see what everybody does.
And we'll go to Paul.
Yeah, so looking at my matchup, I kind of need to win this week because I posted it on a few days ago or whenever it was. After Chad, the rest of my schedule, the 6 games that I play, are all against what I perceive to be either playoff teams or very much in the hunt for the playoffs, including Hen Dog twice in 3 weeks. So if I can't get a win this week, if I go into that gauntlet with only 6 wins, it's going to spell a lot of trouble for me. But hopefully I get a win and we'll go from there.
And Cody.
Yeah, it's good. Good week. Competitive matchups. I will agree. I think that this week there's going to be maybe some boring ones. I think that the Hen and Bry matchup is definitely going to have most of the attention this week. Be interesting to see. With lopsided matchups, we could get a big upset. So that's going to be interesting to see if that happens. And yeah, man, I think I set the tone for the week trading for Jazz Chisholm and George Kirby during the podcast. So we'll see if that means for a busy trade week or if, Paul and Braxton don't trade a bunch because they're kind of the two that's involved in just about every deal that goes down right now. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but another good week ahead. League's rolling. League's in a great place. We got really good owners, really competitive owners week in and week out. And so, League's in a good spot.
Definitely. For my final thoughts, again, I'm grateful that I was able to squeak out the win against Paul, even though it was very stressful most of the week. For me, I think we had just talked about it. I think I just need to win 4 out of the last 7 to clinch the bye, which is what I'm looking for now. I know being undefeated is like the ultimate jinx, so I obviously I want to try to win every game. So if I'm undefeated, I'm undefeated. But for me, as long as I can clinch the bye, that's what I care about most. So I just want to keep rolling. I'm excited to play against Dave. Dave's a very good owner. Would not be surprised to see pick up against me, Anthony Santander. Not looking forward to playing against for a full week, but again, a lot of fun stuff going on this week. I think there'll be a lot more trades. I think teams really now, the deadline's getting closer, like I said before, closer than you think. So we'll see what happens. But that'll do it for this episode of the Base on Balls podcast. Be sure to tune in next week. Same time, same place for more analysis from us here at the Johnny Lee Memorial.